EA and Motive have released a gameplay trailer for the Dead Space remake, highlighting some of the improvements that will be making their way into this new version of the classic sci-fi survival horror title. The Dead Space remake was first announced last year, and fans of the long-dormant franchise will get to play it for themselves in just a few months. The Dead Space remake is being developed by Motive Studio, primarily known for its work on the Star Wars franchise. Motive has proven itself capable of delivering high-quality sci-fi games, though the Dead Space remake is still quite a bit different from the studio's previous projects. Regardless, the newly released Dead Space remake trailer is quite impressive, showing that it will be faithful to the original while still making notable improvements. The Dead Space remake trailer shows protagonist Isaac Clarke exploring the USG Ishimura, utilizing his engineering equipment to solve puzzles and fight horrific alien monsters known as the Necromorphs. The Necromorphs in the Dead Space remake are even uglier than the original, thanks to the game's vastly improved graphics. Necromorphs in the Dead Space remake will be governed by something EA is calling the Intensity Director, which influences Necromorph spawns. Gunnar Wright is back as Isaac Clarke in the Dead Space remake, which means Isaac actually talks this time around. As some may recall, Isaac Clarke was a silent protagonist in the original Dead Space game, with Gunnar Wright signing on to play the character in the sequels Dead Space 2 and Dead Space 3. The decision to bring Gunnar Wright back for the Dead Space remake will likely prove to be a popular one with the game's community. Fans may also enjoy the fact that the Dead Space remake has no loading screens. In the remake, the Ishimura will be one interconnected ship as opposed to segmented by chapters. Those who played the original Dead Space may find it hard to forget the flight lounge. This is where Isaac and company land after the docking procedure of the USG Kellyan goes awry. In the gameplay trailer, the flight lounge is shown to retain the iconic USG Ishimura lettering that welcomes visitors, albeit with much better lighting and shadows that heighten the eerie atmosphere. Next to the flight lounge is another famous setting in the opening hours of Dead Spaces, where Isaac Clarke finds his iconic makeshift weapon, the plasma cutter. Along with this cutting tool, the workbench is also where players get their first and most important tip when battling necromorphs, that being to cut off their limbs. The words are written in blood and look even more gruesome in the remake thanks to improved textures and graphical fidelity. After a short intro showcasing the beginning areas, the gameplay trailer cuts to multiple sections of the USG Ishimura, each with its own story to tell. Viewers can see the medical deck where Isaac Clarke first comes into contact with the deranged Dr. Chalice Mercer, for example. The gameplay trailer also shows the engineering deck, a section of the ship where Isaac has to repair the giant rotating gravity centrifuge. Finally, a short glimpse of the cargo hold displays where the red marker was stored after being rediscovered on the planet Aegis 7. What's great about the trailer is that it avoids any of the late-game revelations and locations that would otherwise spoil the experience for those who have never played Dead Space. It would be impossible to have a Dead Space trailer without including the franchise's iconic necromorphs. The reanimated corpses of the USG Ishimura crew look as grotesque as ever, and are just as keen on killing Isaac as they were in the original title. Many of the in-game and death animations make a return in the remake, and are just as nostalgic a sight as the necromorphs themselves. While the standard slashers and leapers are obvious inclusions, it was surprising to see special necromorphs like the Brute and Leviathan make an appearance. The introduction of these monsters served as miniature events in the original Dead Space, so adding them in the gameplay trailer somewhat spoils the surprise of where they are located. Thankfully, not many special necromorphs were shown in the gameplay trailer, leaving fans to guess what other necromorph types will be included in the remake. One of the main changes expected in remakes is visuals, and the Dead Space remake has some significant improvements that go far beyond a simple graphical update. The USG Ishimura has an almost entirely reworked interior, with huge amounts of detail added to every wall and corner. Additions like rivets, pipes, wires, and reworked particles like sparks and steam make the ship feel more like a real place rather than a video game setting. Developer update videos have also shown changes to environments such as new assets, like furniture and debris. These new environmental storytelling features add to the feeling that the ship was a real lived-in space where something horrifying has gone down. That's also brought to life by the reworked lighting of the game. Lighting is a lot more realistic, with ray tracing and shadows adding to the depth of all those new assets and details of the ship. The recent trailer also shows how the improved lighting has added to the game's terrifying feel. Areas seem to be less brightly lit and shadows appear much darker than before, with greater contrast between the player's flashlight and the now almost pitch-black corridors. It's a great illustration of how EA Motive's work on the new lighting system will impact the tense atmosphere and fear of the unknown that makes the game so frightening. The trailer also featured some of the new dialogue from Isaac Clarke, with the character being voiced by Gunnar Wright, an actor who is reprising his role from Dead Space 2 and 3. Isaac's silence added to him being a relatable vessel for the player in the original, so the change was controversial for some fans. However, his psychological story becomes a major factor in the horror of the game. As such, giving him a voice could help explore this in a more impactful way, with the potential for some memorably terrified reactions from the character for players to empathize with. Isaac's nonverbal reactions to the dreadful happenings around him are also changing. While it seems like a small deal, the developers say the new Alive system of the remake reworks things like his heartbeat and breathing based on contextual cues. It's an easy-to-overlook facet of horror media, but things like that convey fear and build suspense without interjecting dialogue. So a more immersive system for them is sure to add to the Dead Space remake's frightfulness. Isaac Clarke has been the face of the Dead Space franchise since the original game's release in 2008. The engineer-turned-savior of mankind never wanted anything more outside of his work and life with his girlfriend Nicole Brennan. And yet somehow got entangled in a mess of crazed religious zealots and reanimated necromorphs. Isaac does his best to stay out of trouble, but trouble always seems to get him back into his iconic RIG engineering suit. The standard issue apparel for engineers, the Resource Integration Gear, RIG, engineering suit is a special exosuit that covers the entire body. Whereas other personnel have more commercialized rigs, the engineering suit has special features catered specifically for heavy-duty maintenance operations. Isaac Clarke's face makes him look like an everyman, but once he puts on his RIG, Dead Space players know who he is and what he can do. In addition to the features found in every RIG such as health indicators, holographic display capabilities, navigation systems, and communication equipment, engineering rigs possess features that help their wearers with their jobs. There are many variations of the engineering RIG, but all of them have certain pieces of equipment that are shared between every suit. The status module, for instance, slows down the speed of various machinery, making them safe for engineers to interact with. Examples of machinery in the Dead Space world that require a stasis module are heavy hydraulic doors, a ship's gravity centrifuge, and various rotating fans found in maintenance areas. Next to the status module, the kinesis module is the second most important piece of equipment in the engineering RIG. It lets engineers pull and lift heavy objects effortlessly. Some areas even allow for objects to be rolled down specialized tracks. In keeping with the theme of safety, the kinesis module doesn't require any physical contact between the user and the object they are carrying. Aside from these two main features, the engineering RIG is equipped with systems that allow for navigation in zero oxygen and zero gravity environments. When in a vacuum, the engineering RIG creates an airtight seal around the user and provides them with a limited supply of oxygen. Oxygen can be replenished at oxygen recharge stations typically found in areas that require them. As for zero-gravity traversal, a pair of zero-gravity boots and maneuvering thrusters allow engineers to cling to metal surfaces and propel themselves respectively. Though the engineering rigs Isaac Clarke wears aren't at all different from the ones worn by other engineers. They are unique in the sense that their designs are immediately recognizable in the video game world. From the color-coded health indicator on the spine and the various plates that cover the body, arms, and legs, to the Iron Man-esque mask that protects Isaac's face while illuminating his field of vision, the engineering RIG is a physical manifestation of the technology found in the Dead Space world. It's practical and easy to use, and while it may not be the sleekest piece of technology, it can most certainly get the job done. The engineering rig's sheer size and weight immediately tell those who come across it that the wearer is gearing up for some tough work. Though its main purpose is to aid engineers with ship maintenance, it is also an invaluable piece of equipment when it comes to fighting off a necromorph invasion. Isaac may be able to take off the suit, but it is just as big a part of his character as it is an integral piece of the Dead Space universe. Body horror can gross out and make many feel uncomfortable. That's what Dead Space excels in. It's horror at its finest, in which humans are transformed into a disgusting mesh of extended bones and flesh. Dead Space's remake takes that gory appearance of the necromorphs to the next level, with internal organs seeping out of rotting flesh. Hands are clustered in places they shouldn't be, and the attention to detail as Isaac Clarke rips into the skin with a plasma cutter is intense and amazing. Even the detail on necromorph tentacles reveals body parts and faces absorbed inside. It's horrific, yet incredible. Lighting was a huge part of the original Dead Space's DNA. Of course, for many reasons, the lighting in some older games helps to hide the lack of graphical detail. In Dead Space, it worked perfectly in creating a haunting atmosphere. It was impossible to tell what was around the corner, and players wanted to cling to the light just to feel that extra bit of safety that never came. There's far higher respect and regard for lighting in the Dead Space remake, as seen in the trailer. Lights flicker in and out, with bold attention to detail on what light can reflect off of, and the shadows it can create. Lighting isn't an easy thing for developers to master, but EA Motive seems to have mastered it in creating a terrifying atmosphere. Although many adore the original Dead Space, and many can agree that the game got so many things right about it, the one thing it lacked was the way anti-gravity was controlled. Playing these sections was less than stellar, and felt far too tank-like. The movement was hard, and maneuverability was even harder. Anti-grav was a lot more fun in Dead Space 3, and players could fly around in space, doing spins and running out of oxygen. In the trailer for the Dead Space remake, it seems that anti-grav has received a massive innovation, as the brief gameplay of the feature seemed extremely smooth and well-crafted. In the original Dead Space, Isaac Clarke was the player protagonist and one who lacked a voice. The character could be heard breathing and grunting during gameplay, but not a word was spoken by the character until Dead Space 2. Isaac Clarke was given a voice by the talent of Gunnar Wright. When the remake was announced, many fans of the Dead Space franchise were eager to see Gunnar Wright return as Isaac Clarke. Luckily, EA Motive listened, and Gunnar Wright makes his return to the horror of Dead Space. It's promising to see that the remake will have Isaac Clarke speak, and should lead to some interesting drama and emotion. One of the most eye-catching details of the new trailer for the remake of Dead Space is that of the player areas. The first game felt claustrophobic with its tight and dark corridors, where necromoppers could jump out at any second. The remake is certainly continuing that trend but allowing for a much larger playing area. There are rooms in the trailer that already seem far wider and more explorable than that in the original. This doesn't take away from the frights of the game, as it just further shows the technological advances of consoles and developers, able to put far more detail and space into the games that they create. For a brief moment in the trailer, the ominous and red pulsing structure makes an appearance. These structures are known as markers, a double helix-shaped obelisk that can only be described as extraterrestrial in its origin. The markers are used to create necromorphs of organic beings and are the source of Isaac's nightmares and brutality. There are entire global cults dedicated to these markers, and the appearance of the marker in the Dead Space remake trailer only further bolsters their importance, and how Isaac Clarke is the only one that can stop them. If the markers combine, then they can create a Brother Moon, a godly entity capable of ultimate death. All of the Dead Space games are famed for their gruesome detail. Players can easily be punished if they miss a quick time event, or get too friendly with a necromorph. Failure is as inevitable as a death in Dead Space, and the infamy and gore in the death animations are far too unfriendly for show and tell. In the trailer, it seems as if everything wants to kill Isaac, and multiple things do. The trailer lingers on the despair and hopelessness of being trapped aboard the Ishimura with nothing but a RIG suit and a plasma cutter. As the scene cuts away before audiences can get a good look at those brutal death animations that run into a game over screen. A new live stream hosted by EA's Motive Studios showcased many of the most interesting changes the Dead Space remake will be making compared to the original, although it's clear the game remains very faithful to the original vision. Aside from the obvious graphical improvements, major changes to some of the game's environments, encounters, and decision-making have helped modernize and enhance the Dead Space experience. First announced at EA Play back in 2021, the Dead Space remake immediately grabbed the attention of longtime fans of the franchise who haven't seen a new entry from the series since 2013's Dead Space 3. The game utilizes EA's Frostbite engine, which famously brought the spectacular sights of Star Wars Battlefront 2 and Star Wars Squadrons to life. While Dead Space's visuals are further improved thanks to the redesigned character and environment assets. With the official release date recently revealed to be January 27, 2023, sci-fi horror fans won't have to wait much longer before getting back into the Ishimura. The live stream featuring Motive's creative director Roman Camposoriola and senior producer Philippe Ducharme celebrates the 14th anniversary of Dead Space, which was released the same day back on October 14, 2008. Over the course of the stream, a variety of gameplay scenarios were showcased throughout several of the game's chapters, showing how the remake's changes impact the game. One of the biggest changes to the game is its new seamless interconnected nature, with the Ishimura sections no longer being divided by tram ride loading screens. Exploring the game will now be one uninterrupted sequence. Another major improvement with the Dead Space remake comes in the form of the AI Intensity Director, which dynamically adjusts gameplay elements in order to control the tension and surprise the player. Upon backtracking to previous areas, Isaac may find that the ambient lighting has changed and that entirely different enemies have shown up in these areas. This will make every room feel more intense, as it's no longer a simple case of memorizing enemy spawns. In one section, Isaac has to make the choice between turning off the oxygen in an area and relying on oxygen canisters, or turning off the lights and traversing in the darkness. The developers stated that as a rule, Isaac will generally only speak while spoken to rather than talk to himself in quiet moments so that players can stay immersed during exploration. During Chapter 2, Isaac must obtain higher security clearance off the dead captain's rig. The captain's corpse is attacked by an infector, causing him to turn into a necromorph. In the 2008 sequence, players watch the change safely behind glass. In the remake, Isaac experiences this horrifying transformation up close and personal, harkening back to the dramatic real-time necromorph transformation at the beginning of Dead Space 2. New junction boxes require Isaac to reroute power between different Ishimura functions. In one scenario, I needed to reroute power to a refueling station, and I could choose between cutting the lights or oxygen supply to make this happen. Situations like this allow players to pick their poison when need be, who chose to play in the dark rather than risk suffocation. The vivid lighting and visual effects make dramatic moments feel even more impressive. Later in Chapter 3, Isaac restarts the Ishimura centrifuge. A combination of effects explode into action as the giant machinery kicks online, giant pieces of the machine rumble violently, sparks fly as metal grinds. The huge swinging arm casts large shadows against the orange auxiliary power lights. It's a feast for the senses and draws you in deeper to the experience. Locked doors and loot containers have been added to the Ishimura, which Isaac can access after acquiring upgraded security clearance. This incentivizes players to return to previously cleared areas to uncover resources and upgrade materials. One locked door even involves a new side quest revealing a bit more about Isaac's missing partner, Nicole. But don't let your guard down just because you're returning to known territory. Motive keeps players on their toes with the Intensity Director, which will ratchet up suspense with creepy noises like creaking vents, surprised like bursting pipes, and unexpected necromorph attacks. What good is hunting for bonus resources without a place to invest them? New weapon upgrade items can be attached to the plasma cutter, pulse rifle, and more to add extra upgrade paths to spend nodes. It's to be determined if this incorporates new weapon mechanics, or simply additional enhancements to damage, reload speed, ammo capacity. The bench remains a fun way to customize Isaac to fit your playstyle using precious nodes hidden around the Ishimura. You can also upgrade your weapon's damage, ammo capacity, and reload speed. Back in 2008, Dead Space's projected user interface was ahead of its time, and today it still feels futuristic. Bringing up Isaac's projected menu in real time preserves the immersion and immediacy. Plus, the menu text and icons look even more crisp and clean in 4K. However, one of the remake's most intriguing additions is how it lets players choose certain challenges. The Dead Space remake's extended gameplay walkthrough introduces players to a new choice mechanic they will have to interact with. For example, in a fuel management room, players must interact with a circuit breaker and decide which power supplies they will cut in order to reassign power elsewhere. Power could be cut from life support, for example, which means Isaac begins swiftly losing oxygen and has to use air canisters. This extended gameplay also demonstrates the option of keeping life support powered on, but cutting the lights. This choice means players will not need to worry about their oxygen depleting, but they are now at the mercy of the Ishimura's pitch-black corridors. This particular incident is hopefully just one of many choices that players will be able to make. Having the choice between different impediments is an idea that can also upend expectations that fans of the original game will undoubtedly have. It will be interesting to see how detrimental these choices can be in the Dead Space remake, such as letting players choose a difficult path through the whole game if they desire it. Likewise, the game's proposed intensity director should take advantage of the situations players put themselves in and surprise them accordingly with new threats they may not have expected. The idea that the Dead Space remake will have no loading screens, a one-shot third-person camera inspired from God of War 4, and an interconnected USG Ishimura is great. These are substantial changes that will surely have a huge effect on how the game plays, especially if EA Motive gives players a reason to backtrack. Or if its choice mechanic is implemented frequently. Choices are not intended to be offered in every circumstance, but as seen in the extended gameplay walkthrough, they could break up linearity a lot. If nothing else, allowing players to strategically decide what challenges they want to face gives the remake more legitimacy as a remake, featuring gameplay improvements that actually alter the familiar title's events. Despite many substantial changes, it's surprising how well the remake has stayed true to its predecessor. For players who play on the latest consoles, it is important to remember that all Electronic Arts games come with a 10% discount for EA Play members, which can be attained through Xbox Game Pass or purchased as an add-on in the PlayStation Store. As with many AAA game releases, Dead Space is releasing with multiple different editions that range from physical to digital, and some benefits will appeal to players more than others. Some editions of Dead Space have been fully revealed, while others have promised premium content that will presumably be announced or confirmed prior to launch. But there are no concrete details yet, and gamers will have to keep that in mind when making a purchasing decision. The standard edition of Dead Space has a base price of $70 on the PS5 and Xbox Series X and S, and it retails for $60 on PC. Currently, there are no pre-order bonuses displayed, so players who purchase the standard edition are likely to just get the remake, along with better graphics, combat, and faster loading times in Dead Space. The digital deluxe edition of Dead Space features the base game for new-gen consoles, plus a couple of nice bonuses to get players started, especially for those who enjoy collecting different cosmetic items. The digital deluxe edition includes 3 unique suits aside from Isaac's base engineering suit in the game, as well as 2 suit textures that will give them a different look. Costs an extra $10 at $80, but big fans of Dead Space might find the extra price worth it for the different suits at launch. It's possible that EA reveals more about the Dead Space Deluxe Edition soon, but for now, it is just additional suit items. If fans want more than Dead Space's standard and digital deluxe editions, the Collector's Edition delivers a dream bundle for die-hard fans of the space horror franchise. The Collector's Edition includes a physical copy of Dead Space, as well as a CD soundtrack, 4 mini posters, a lithograph print, steelbook, pin, and more. It doesn't include a real-life plasma cutter from Dead Space, but the centerpiece of the Collector's Edition is a full-size, wearable helmet identical to Isaac's helmet in the game, with working lights that will look great on any fan's display shelf. At $275 through limited run games for PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S, the Dead Space Collector's Edition definitely isn't cheap, but for hardcore fans of the franchise and its lore, it just might be the thing their collections have been missing. With 3D audio and haptics of the PS5 DualSense controller, if you want the definitive experience, the place to play it is on the PS5. And that's the breakdown of the latest Dead Space trailer, gameplay walkthrough, and the hands-on impressions.
It's all falling apart here. I can't believe what's happening.
Nicole?
Sony is reportedly projecting to ship around 30 million PlayStation 5 consoles within the next year. This shows that Sony may be optimistic that its supply issues may drastically improve in the 2023 fiscal year. As the world has adjusted to working through the COVID-19 pandemic, industries that were severely affected by the shutdown and either increases or decreases in demands have begun to stabilize. This stability has started to see companies finally catching up to demands for products that have been difficult to find throughout 2021. Nearly 2 years after launch, the PlayStation 5 is still hard to come by in stores, and if a PS5 manages to get on a shelf at a retailer, it's treated as a triumphant event. If reports are correct, there could be more regular sightings of PS5s on shelves moving forward. Tom Henderson, a prominent gaming industry insider, published a report on his website, Insider Gaming, that says Sony is aiming to ship 30 million PS5 consoles between now and March 2024. Out of the projected 30 million, Insider Games says Sony believes it would sell 18 million units during that same time. Reports recently released say that Sony's shipment of PS5s has dramatically increased by nearly 400% since this same time last year. Sony seems confident that the issues that have plagued the availability of PS5 are nearing an end. While it hasn't been officially announced yet, Sony is expected to begin selling a detachable disk drive for the PS5, but that will not go into production until the middle of next year. Until then, Sony will be producing the disc, PS5 and the digital PS5. Then it is expected that Sony could phase out the disc, PS5s and only sell the digital PS5 and the detachable disk drive as an add-on. Though it was only released 2 years ago, Sony has already updated the PS5 model that was spotted recently in Australia. The Insider Gaming report also noted that 12 million of the 30 million units shipped would be old PS5s. The new PS5 will not look different and is expected to be lighter and more efficient than the first iteration. With the mix of the two models of PS5s, potential buyers looking to get the freshest models of PS5 will have to pay attention to SKU numbers when they make their purchase. The PlayStation 5 continues to sell well when it can be found, with an estimated 21.7 units sold since the November 2020 launch. With the recent God of War Ragnarok PS5 bundle, that process is going to become easier. With 30 million units now expected to ship in the 2023 fiscal year, Sony appears confident that its supply chain issues are coming to an end and that it can get more consoles into the hands of its fans. Speaking of sales, Sony and the newest Madden NFL title dominated last month, with the NPD Group officially revealing its video game sales data for the month of August. The market research company has become one of the premier sources for tracking sales of both games and gaming hardware within the United States. The NPD Group regularly releases its monthly best-selling games list, as well as cumulative rankings of game sales throughout the year. Now, the newest report from NPD's Matt Piscatella gives an inside look at gaming sales during August. An extensive report posted to Piscatella's Twitter gave a plethora of data for games and hardware sales during the month of August, with the PS5 leading the way. Piscatella revealed that Sony's PlayStation 5 topped gaming hardware sales in the US during August, despite Sony's announcement of a PS5 price hike late in the month. The report also confirmed that the Nintendo Switch continued to lead all consoles in hardware sales throughout the year. Notably, both the Xbox Series X and PS5 were said to have experienced double-digit % growth in sales compared to last year's numbers. The report from Piscatella went on to detail August sales for individual games, with EA Sports' Madden NFL 23 leading the charge, fresh off the release of the annual football game. The newly released Saints Row reboot followed shortly after, in second place, with Marvel's Spider-Man seeing a major jump to hit third in August. Elden Ring and Multiversus rounded out the top 5 for August, with both falling from their second and first place positions last month, respectively. The top 20 for August showed plenty of other interesting details about sales for both old and new games. Besides the previously mentioned Madden NFL 23 and Saints Row, Atlas Soul Hackers 2 was the only new game to crack the monthly top 20, finishing at 15th. Several older games continue to hold strong positions in the monthly rankings as well, with Mario Kart 8 and Minecraft both finishing just outside the top 5. Nintendo was the most represented publisher in the August ranking, with 5 games featured in the top 20 for August. Horizon Forbidden West and GT7 hold their positions strong too. The NPD Group's most recent ranking comes as the gaming world is gearing up for a busy holiday season. Several major multi-platform games are slated to launch throughout the last few months of 2022, with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 among the highlights. Sony and Nintendo are also bringing major console exclusives during the end of the year, with Sony's God of War Ragnarok and Nintendo releasing new Pokemon and Bayonetta games. Fans on every console will look to have plenty in store throughout the rest of the year, except for Xbox. The recently announced Saints Row reboot hasn't been performing as well as publisher Deep Silver and the parent Embracer Group would have certainly wanted. While the game has risen towards the top of the charts, it failed to get over the most important hurdle, dethroning Saints Row's one and perhaps only significant rival, Grand Theft Auto. The figures from European game sales data reveal that Saints Row took the second spot only after GTA 5. According to the game sales data, Saints Row took second on the chart. On the surface, this doesn't look like a bad placement. After all, Spider-Man Remastered was also released in August on PC and only managed to get 6th on the list. However, there was really only one game Saints Row was aiming for, GTA 5. Unfortunately for Saints Row, GTA 5 had an amazing month in Europe and was able to beat Saints Row for the top spot. It is evident that GTA 5 is still going strong as gamers wait for the successor. Not everything is as bad for Saints Row as even the Embracer CEO Lars Wingefors' comments can be interpreted. The game was released on the 23rd, so while the August data shows the initial launch spike, it only includes approximately a week of sales. Considering this, the game's spot on the chart isn't terrible by any means. Comparisons to GTA 5 are rough no matter how good the sales were. And Saints Row should try to veer off from direct comparisons to such a massively successful franchise that has turned into a phenomenon. The placement, albeit maybe unfortunate for optics, doesn't necessarily translate to as poor success as initial reviews of Saints Row might have suggested. The game is probably going to make a profit for the companies involved, as Wingefors suggested to investors. It is also worth noting that this is data for Europe only. NPD's data for best-selling games in the United States revealed that Saints Row managed the third spot on consoles, while GTA 5 was nowhere to be seen on the charts. Sony's machine is currently the UK's best-selling console of the year so far. The platform moves ahead of Nintendo Switch. PlayStation 5 has broken past 2 million sales in the UK. It is the fourth fastest home console to reach the figure, matching the PS3 but behind the PS4, number 3, the PS2, number 2, and Nintendo Wii, number 1. The supply issues and chip shortages are being taken of, and on this pace the PS5 could be making a record-breaking sales this Christmas and reach its 30 million mark in the fiscal year 2023. Sony has officially announced the free PlayStation Plus games for October 2022, with next month's offerings consisting of 3 titles in total. While there have been some exceptions to the rule, Sony generally announces the new free PlayStation Plus games on the last Wednesday of each month, with the titles set to be added on the first Tuesday of the following month. That's exactly what's happened with the latest free PS Plus games, which will be rotated in on Tuesday, October 4th. Better yet, all 3 titles will be available to PS Plus subscribers across PS4 and PS5 thanks to PS5's backward compatibility feature. The free PS Plus games for October 2022 are Hot Wheels Unleashed, Injustice 2, and Superhot. There are only PS4 versions of Injustice 2 and Superhot available. But PS Plus subscribers can check out a native PS5 version of Hot Wheels Unleashed if they have managed to get their hands on Sony's next-generation console. Hot Wheels Unleashed is a racing game based on the famous toy brand, originally releasing last year to relatively mixed reviews. Injustice 2, meanwhile, is a well-reviewed fighting game from Mortal Kombat developer NetherRealm Studios that pits some of DC Comics' most famous heroes and villains against one another. And finally, Superhot is a first-person shooter with a unique gimmick. In Superhot, time stands still except for when the player character is moving, which adds a certain puzzle-solving element to the carnage. Sony has started to establish a pattern when it comes to the pricier PlayStation Plus tiers, announcing the monthly free games at end of the previous month and revealing the new PS Plus Extra and Premium editions in the middle of the month. For October 2022, PS Plus Extra and Premium subscribers have quite a lot of games to look forward to, with 16 games coming to the PS Plus Extra tier and another 7 being added for PS Plus Premium subscribers to check out. Starting Tuesday, October 18th, PS Plus Extra and Premium subscribers will be able to check out the new games for October 2022. On the PS Plus Extra side, PS Plus Premium also gets access to all the PS Plus Extra games. Subscribers can look forward to a whopping 6 Assassin's Creed games in the form of Assassin's Creed 3 Remastered, Assassin's Creed Chronicles China, Assassin's Creed Chronicles India, Assassin's Creed Chronicles Russia, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and Assassin's Creed Syndicate. It was noted by PlayStation that the Chronicles trilogy in Syndicate will only be available on PS4 for unknown reasons. AC fans have a lot to look forward to when it comes to the new PS Plus Extra games for October 2022, but so too do Dragon Quest fans. They'll be able to check out Dragon Quest XI's Echoes of an Elusive Age, Dragon Quest Builders, Dragon Quest Builders 2, Dragon Quest Heroes The World's Tree Woe and the Blight Below, and Dragon Quest Heroes 2 Explorers Edition. Other new PS Plus Extra games joining the lineup on October 18th include Grand Theft Auto Vice City, the Definitive Edition, Hohokam, Inside, Naruto to Boruto Shinobi Striker, and the new gen-only game The Medium. In addition to the 16 games being added as part of PS Plus Extra, PS Plus Premium is getting 7 PlayStation 3 titles. Starting October 18th, those subscribed to PS Plus Premium can check out Castlevania Lords of Shadow, Everyday Shooter, Limbo, Ultra Street Fighter 4, and the remastered versions of Yakuza 3, Yakuza 4, and Yakuza 5. Next week is going to be an exciting one for PS Plus Extra and Premium subscribers, to say the least, but it should be noted that next week will also bring with it some removals. On October 17th, Red Dead Redemption and Undead Nightmare are leaving PS Plus Premium, while October 18th will see the removal of horror game Soma. Sony has launched its PlayStation Stars loyalty program in North and South America following its recent rollout in other regions. The PlayStation Stars loyalty program is an interesting new initiative where PlayStation gamers can be rewarded for playing and purchasing games on their PlayStation consoles. Rewards include points that can be redeemed for various prizes, including PlayStation Store credit, as well as special collectible items that pay homage to PlayStation's past. There are 4 quests, or campaigns, for players to complete. One is simply for playing a PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5 game in the month of October, and doing so will get players the Tier X from the PS1 tech demo. Another quest is called Hit Play/1994, which gets players a digital Sony Cord machine. This PlayStation Stars campaign gives players various song titles, and they have to figure out which games those titles correspond to and launch them to complete the game. Another quest gets players a novelty toy fight trophy collectible, and it's for playing fighting games. The options include Street Fighter V, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Mortal Kombat 11, and Tekken 7. It's unclear at the time of this writing if players need to play all those fighting games or if just one will work. And finally, the last campaign currently available to early PlayStation Stars gamers is called PlayStation Store Picks. To complete this quest, players need to purchase a game from the PlayStation Store. They can choose from NBA 2K23, Saints Row 5, TMNT Collection, The Last of Us Part 1, Inscription, and Madden NFL 23. Making one of these purchases will get players 50 points in return. That's not going to go far in the reward section, as it costs 5,000 points to get $20 in PlayStation Store credit, and the digital collectibles are going for 200 points a pop. But it's better than getting nothing in return for a purchase. Being the top tier, PlayStation Stars Level 4 gives subscribers in Japan a better customer service experience which may carry over to PlayStation Network accounts in the West when it launches in the region. PlayStation fans that buy the most games and earn a plethora of trophies will rise in PlayStation Stars ranks quickly, which lends credence to the emphasis on gaming, but leaves the small spenders at lower tiers. These lower-level accounts may feel further punished when contacting PlayStation customer support, as the PlayStation Stars listing confirms the Tier 4 benefit of getting priority in the chat order. What wasn't shared is that there could be a secret 5th tier to the PlayStation Stars rewards program, discovered only after data miners investigated a recent update for the PlayStation app. This 5th tier is dubbed Diamond, and part of why it may not have been announced is that it's apparently an invitation-only tier. The description for the Diamond PlayStation Stars tier is, in an endless sea of stars, it seems like there's nowhere to hide, but you wouldn't be here if you let challenges like that stop you. Welcome to Level 5. Like with previous tiers, Diamond members appear to be given a digital collectible as a reward from Sony, which is shown to be a PlayStation sort of satellite covered in astrobots. There's no information regarding what requirements are necessary for Sony to consider someone for an invite to PlayStation Stars Diamond tier. However, mention of players completing challenges implies it's more of what's been required for previous tiers. If Level 4 requires twice as many purchased games and 4 times as many uncommon PlayStation trophies as Level 3, it's easy to imagine Level 5 requiring at least a dozen purchased games and hundreds of uncommon trophies. The big question is why Sony would decide to keep Level 5 of PlayStation Stars a secret. The most logical possibility is that Sony decided not to implement it. It could exist in code fragments only. A second possibility is Sony wants it to seem mysterious and exclusive, which encourages PlayStation Stars participants to buy more games and complete more challenges. The lack of firm requirements will lead players to potentially spend more. A third idea is that PlayStation doesn't want to acknowledge having such an exclusive group, as the rewards for it would be controversial. Loyalty programs are, historically, not designed simply to reward loyal customers and to keep them returning. They're gamified systems intended to keep people spending more, like a local fast food restaurant offering a free drink after buying 10. The PlayStation Stars loyalty program is likely the same, and the Diamond tier, if it exists at all, is just an extension of that. Hopefully, now that it's public, Sony will comment on it so PlayStation Stars users don't have to worry about what they may be missing out on. If the user makes purchases on the account, the PlayStation Stars level should eventually rise and points will be earned. These PlayStation Stars points may be redeemed for valuable PlayStation Store credit. Starting today, PlayStation Plus members will receive PlayStation Stars points for digital Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 and God of War Ragnarok pre-orders. Sony sent out a notification through PlayStation Network to inform users that all existing pre-orders for the two upcoming games are eligible for PlayStation Stars points. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 and God of War Ragnarok pre-orders made after October 5th are still eligible as well. Users should be able to earn PlayStation Stars points from these pre-orders leading into launch day. Sony confirms a special PlayStation Stars campaign is coming within a week of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 and God of War Ragnarok's respective launches. These limited-time campaigns allow PlayStation Stars users to earn points following the launch of these games. Players planning to purchase both games should be able to amass a wealth of PlayStation Stars points this October and November. Sony did not share exact details about the new campaigns, but the company will likely share more news closer to the game's launch dates. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 and God of War Ragnarok pre-order campaigns are a promising sign of PlayStation Stars' future. Users should expect more campaigns for upcoming PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 games going forward. Those already excited about new PlayStation releases are able to earn new PlayStation Stars rewards and PlayStation Store credit by joining the free program. PS5 will receive a variety of exciting games in 2023, such as Marvel's Spider-Man 2, Forspoken, Stellar Blade, Final Fantasy XVI, Street Fighter VI, and Resident Evil 4 Remake. It will be interesting to see if Sony creates and promotes PlayStation Stars campaigns with the upcoming slate of PS5 games to entice even more users to join the service. Skybound Entertainment has revealed that it intends to make video games based on the Invincible franchise. The announcement was made earlier this week and will be a part of the franchise's upcoming 20th anniversary next year. Skybound Entertainment, however, did not reveal any details for any upcoming Invincible game. Originally published from 2003 to 2018, Invincible was a comic series written by The Walking Dead scribe, Robert Kirkman. While popular among comic fans, the series was not particularly well known in the mainstream until relatively recently. This was primarily thanks to the launch of an animated series of the same name, which released its first season on Amazon Prime in 2021. This adaptation of Invincible has been hailed by some as the best superhero television show of 2021, and a second season is currently in the works. Since the Amazon series was released, the Invincible franchise has exploded in popularity, and many have wondered what will be next for the property. Recently, however, Skybound Entertainment unveiled what was on its docket without giving away too many details. As part of the comic book's 20th anniversary, the company revealed that a number of new projects were in the works for a release in 2023. Among these projects is an Invincible video game. In the past, creator Robert Kirkman has teased that an Invincible video game was in the works, but this is the first time some kind of release/announcement window has been revealed. Skybound Entertainment remained silent on any details regarding the game. Since Invincible was released on Amazon Prime, fans have been clamoring for a game in the franchise or some kind of crossover with another. Some have suggested that Omni-Man should appear in the Mortal Kombat series, with franchise co-creator Ed Boon endorsing the idea. Others still think the series should get its own Mortal Kombat-style fighting game, while others think it should go a different route. Skybound Entertainment has, in the past, dipped its toes in the video game medium through its Skybound Games division. This branch of the company notably took over the development of The Walking Dead: The Final Season after Telltale Games went bankrupt in 2018. Since then, the company has primarily stuck to publishing remasters of older PC games like the Baldur's Gate games, and the development of The Walking Dead mobile games. How Skybound Games will approach an Invincible game, for now at least, remains to be seen. Electronic Arts has officially revealed the trailer for its next entry in the Need for Speed franchise. The Need for Speed Unbound trailer features a unique art style for the characters that has been heavily hinted at, and a big name in the music and fashion industry as one of the main characters in the game. Electronic Arts has given the keys to the Need for Speed franchise back to Criterion Games, and it aims to make a big impression. With some promotional material leaking a little earlier than EA intended, fans of the Need for Speed series got wind of these changes and got the excitement going early. Those looking forward to it should note that Need for Speed Unbound will launch on December 2nd. The game takes place in the fictional Lakeshore City, and the player's goal will be to win the city's signature street race. EA officially reveals the merge unique character designs with realistic-looking cars in Need for Speed Unbound. The game will have an anime art style to characters and car actions like burnouts and jumps that will have colorful effects. The trailer features rapper A$AP Rocky prominently throughout, hinting that he could be a leader or a boss race at some point in the game's campaign. The Need for Speed website also details that players will be making wagers on their races on top of whatever money they make from races, which could be spent on cars, upgrades, driving effects, player avatar customizations, and more. Clothing customization may also come from officially licensed deals with clothing and shoe brands. The announcement on the Need for Speed Twitter account tagged clothing designer Marine Sarah and shoe brand Vans for A$AP Rocky's in-game outfit, signaling that licensed clothing and shoe deals will be in the game. Given the aesthetic of the trailer and numerous scenes featuring other stylish characters, what the player wears will be just as important as how their car looks and drives. EA looks to be ready to move on from the previous console generation. Leaked images showed that Need for Speed Unbound releases showed that when the game releases, it will only be coming to the new generations of consoles as well as PC via EA Play, and will cost $70. The game also will have pre-order bonuses of $150,000 in-game currency to start, exclusive pre-order content of driving effects, decals, license plate, banner artwork, and stickers. Additionally, there will be an $80 Need for Speed Unbound Palace Edition in partnership with Palace Skateboards that give players exclusive content and early access to the game alongside EA Play members. A 30-second trailer uploaded to the Need for Speed Twitter account on October 11th highlighted some of the unique visual elements that players will be able to customize. From the color of the trail of smoke left behind after drifting around a tight turn to the pop art effects that emphasize a boost or a jump. Need for Speed Unbound appears to include more than a few stylistic flourishes that players will be able to tailor to their personal preferences. That said, in a follow-up tweet, it was confirmed that Need for Speed Unbound's flashy extras are completely optional and can be turned off should the player choose to pursue a more grounded design approach. While no specifics were given, it seems as if players will be able to pick and choose which vehicle elements they would like to embellish and which they would prefer to keep stock. This should be a positive sign for fans who were concerned over Need for Speed Unbound's apparent style over substance approach. Though neon hues and abstracted aesthetics are likely to remain prevalent throughout the game world. Following the release of Need for Speed Heat in 2019, EA's once-annual racing series went on a short hiatus that's due to end once Need for Speed Unbound debuts in early December. The Need for Speed Unbound debut trailer seems to have earned a fairly positive reception, though some fans were eager to voice their concerns over the game's longevity. Development on the most current entry in the Need for Speed franchise was halted roughly a year after launch, and many mourned the wasted potential of the title. Electronic Arts' penchant for player-unfriendly in-game monetization schemes could also be cause for alarm. 2017's Need for Speed Payback was hobbled by unwanted lootbox mechanics, and pushback was so immense owing partially to similar issues in Star Wars Battlefront 2 that the developer was forced to make changes. Things have changed significantly since then, but a heavy emphasis on style and aesthetics could translate to a post-release push for microtransactions and Battle Pass buy-ins. EA and Criterion surprised players with Need for Speed Unbound's announcement, giving a first look at the city of Lakeshore and the city's illegal street racing scene at the heart of the game. The game appears to pulling from the series' more popular titles, including Need for Speed Underground and Hot Pursuit, to give players a more arcade-style, over-the-top racing game. It will also feature famed hip-hop artist A$AP Rocky as a key character in the player's quest to become the best street racer in Lakeshore. To accomplish this, players will need to unlock the game's 143 total cars to customize for the streets, ranging from a number of Porsche 911 models to one of Lamborghini's newest supercars, the Countach LPI 800-4. Other brands such as Honda, Ferrari, Mazda, McLaren, and Mercedes-Benz are also back in the game with plenty of cars to choose from. But what might catch players by surprise this time around are the omissions. Toyota, Audi, Hyundai, and Maserati are four of the notable brands which will not have any vehicles features in the game at launch. Toyota's absence makes it the third straight Need for Speed game the brand has skipped out on having its cars features, the last one being 2015's Need for Speed. The reason it has previously given is it doesn't want to be involved in promoting illegal street racing, according to a 2019 Twitter post. It hasn't been completely absent from gaming, though, as Toyota's cars have been featured in the more recent entries in the Forza and Gran Turismo series. It would not be surprising to see some players disappointed by the news of these omissions, namely due to the cars that will be absent from the game at launch. The 1998 Toyota Supra, for example, has been a car long associated with street racing and entertainment thanks to its association with the Fast and the Furious film series and its late co-lead, Paul Walker. It also means just fewer cars for players to speed around the city with, though this could easily change with post-launch content if Criterion decides to add more cars to the game. Over the years, the Need for Speed franchise has passed through the hands of a few developers, with varying levels of success. Though many longtime fans consider the peak of the series to be during the underground street racing games, there is one title released later on that managed to become a favorite: Need for Speed Most Wanted, 2012. Although it shares a name with its iconic 2005 counterpart, the two don't have much in common. It takes on many elements from the Burnout series, which was developed by Criterion Games. Hence, gamers can engage in spectacular high-speed crashes to knock out their opponents, and the camera will enter slow-motion mode upon impact to let players revel in the action. The entire game is obsessed with its stylish aesthetic, and before each race, gamers are treated to gaudy visuals. Upon release, Most Wanted was well received, and it managed to pick up a few awards for itself. Gamers were further impressed by the PS Vita port, which managed to make players feel like they could take the PS3 game and play it on the go. With Most Wanted, Criterion proved that it can be trusted with the Need for Speed franchise. Although it may no longer be in its golden years, the series is still beloved by its fans, and while its gameplay isn't too complex, it does require some TLC to get it right. Most Wanted features top-notch visuals along with a spectacular soundtrack to complement Need for Speed's classic arcade racer gameplay. If Criterion can pull off the same with Unbound, gamers can rest assured that another great game is on the way. Although gamers flock to Need for Speed games like Underground due to their ability to capture the spirit of the street racing scene at the time, the games became legendary thanks to their addictive gameplay. The games are far from realistic when it comes to how the cars handle, but they provide a fun experience with how they slide around corners and go supersonic when players use NOS. Over the years, the franchise has added several fun game modes. Most Wanted, released in 2005, is remembered for its intense cop chases which had gamers winding through Rockport as they tried to evade the law. Its successor, NFS Carbon, introduced canyon races which had players racing down narrow tracks on the sides of mountains. NFS Unbound looks pretty, but to make it an iconic title, it needs gameplay to match. Gamers haven't seen any gameplay from the upcoming game, which is concerning, considering it releases in December. However, it has been revealed that cops will be present and that there will be a new game mode called Takeover Scene. This is a co-op mode that has players working together to conquer parts of Lakeshore. Electronic Arts and Criterion Games confirm that the newly announced Need for Speed Unbound racing game will have a free trial available for EA Play and certain Xbox Game Pass subscribers. Unbound will be released on current generation consoles, which suggests that developers have big plans for the upcoming game. Luckily, fans will get a Need for Speed Unbound gameplay trailer soon that'll help them judge its true quality. If it is anything as good as the visuals, an amazing racing game is on the way. And that's all for the video, guys. Like and share the video for a greater audience. Comment your thoughts on the topics, and donations are always appreciated. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon, and until then from SMPV, it's goodbye.